Hey guys. I'm doing well today, Michael. My cat is joining us. She's pretty needy right now, but she'll be making noise around. And yes, I'm in San Francisco right now. I moved here remotely for school, so hanging out here until that's over. Yeah. Hi, Mike. Kamal. How are you guys doing? That sounds good. Where are you guys from? So your biggest question is, when starting a type piece, what are your first steps? Okay, so I think, Michael, you're talking about like my projects that are happening on, like for Instagram. Whenever I do a type piece, sounds good, Kamal. Whenever I do start on a typeface, I think about, I just start sketching, even if I don't have the idea completely formed in my head yet. So when I start sketching, I normally start off with my iPad. I put down all my ideas here, and then I try to like lock everything down, and I pretty much just put all of that into physical form, because it's hard to like really take grasp of an idea that's so abstract. So I like to put everything either in my sketchbook or in my iPad, and I try to make sure that, like, I don't go with the first idea, I try something else, and then I can duplicate it if I'm working on my iPad, and I make like a bunch of different kinds of ideas. So that's pretty much where I start. I try to focus on whether or not it's able to be read. I try to think about like, oh, are the words working together? Is spacing right? Whenever you're working on a type piece, it's really important to just have those things honed down before moving forward and adding like animation or details, texture, stuff like that whenever you're working on something. So yeah. Hope that's what you mean. Yeah, readability, spacing, overall layout, whether or not the attributes that I picked for a certain typeface or lettering works for the concept. And when clients come to us, they don't really have a style in mind. They kind of just have like a concept, like they just want to bring about personality, like they want something to be really positive or something that's really serious or all that stuff. So they don't really exactly have an idea of type in mind, and that's a good thing, because being able to understand the classifications of type and matching that persona with something is like something that type designers kind of bring to the table. So yeah. Definitely an end goal for Vibe. And that's why, like, just reading up on different classifications is really important. Like, you wouldn't use like a black letter for something that's corporate necessarily, unless they want that vibe, but people go very minimal. I am primarily a designer. Oh, I'm so sorry. My name is Jenny. I am a designer. I kind of dabble in animation here and there, but my main focus is as a designer. I'm also currently studying for a certificate in typeface design at Type at Cooper West in San Francisco. So I'm really focusing and honing in on type concepts and type study right now. So it's like all my life right now. I try to figure out a project that can tie in all the stuff that I learned from Mograph Mentor with type. So I started a project on my Instagram. It's like 100 days of motion script where I animate a string of a word pretty much with mostly frame by frame animation. So I love type. I hope you guys do too. It's really cool. I like digital primarily. A lot of people, like if I don't have anything else, I'd probably definitely use my notebook that I have on hand. But for digital, I think it's great. It's better for me because I can make a lot of different versions really quickly, and it's already digital, so I can bring it into Adobe Animate or After Effects and be able to sketch on top of it. And then I already have like a bunch of versions that's digitized, and I wouldn't need to take a picture that's a little bit less than the quality I have in my head. It's already cleaned up. And even for apps that have, like Adobe, they have a lot of great apps that have you import directly into their programs. So I wouldn't need to, do anything messy. It's just, really difficult, It's difficult to have to go from Procreate and save out a picture, upload the picture, and then upload it on, all these different things where you can upload directly into Photoshop or InDesign. Oh. Oh. How difficult is it to do bigger hand-made pieces like a wedding sign? It's kind of just like doing a large-scale sketch. For those, I end up just, like I sketch it out, but I feel like I like to sketch, for that one I do sketch directly on the board because it's not big enough where I would need a projector, but it's small enough where I can put my hands directly onto it for the whole time. So for this one, I would sketch directly onto it and like look at spacing the same way I would handle a normal sketch. And then I would do that with like a white pencil. I don't know if I have one on me right now. With just like a white pencil, and then I would go over the whole thing with gouache or paint. I think in this case it was acrylic. Yeah, it was a wood treated that was already surfaced, and then I sketched on that, and then I used the acrylic. So for larger scale pieces, I would normally use a projector and then have that broadcast and then trace it, and then and then trace the whole thing and then paint it afterwards. So I think a lot of people actually do that. Whenever you do process videos, I feel like you just see them coloring because the camera won't pick up the pencils anyway, so it looks really cool. But I feel like a lot of people who are way more experienced know how to do it completely, like just paint by hand. So, pretty sure. There's so many people typing. Let's go with detail design. In all of design, that's a question that requires some thought. I think for type, whenever you're using a paragraph of type, I think people often overlook the power of spacing And I think using math as an optical like tool can really help make your spacing really like solid and making everything line up, because type has like a baseline, and if you have everything line up automatically when you're starting to scale up, then I think that, you know, that can really make your stuff like look really good. And then creating digital, I use this for this one. I did it with ink, and then I scanned that in to Photoshop, inversed it, made it transparent, and then I put it on top of the photos. Because I had to do my whole team at my job, and they had all these different quotes that I did. I don't know if I have that Photoshop file. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I did for that one. And I think ink is really good because it's in a really opaque, solid color. If you use like marker or something, you might get a translucency, but I worked with like with this kind of ink. It's like a Sumi ink, and it makes it really solid. So whenever you're making things and you scan it in, it's like solid black. And Photoshop takes it so well. You don't have to change the levels that much. Maintaining that organic, textured, brushy feel when going digital. I love Photoshop because they have a wide range of brushes available. Recently, Kyle Webster is working with Adobe to bring his brushes into Photoshop, so they're native to Photoshop and only Photoshop has them. And that's why I like to use Adobe Sketch, because I can use them there. And I use those brushes on top of the solid forms that I have for my type. And I think it's for this one. Let's see if I can find. You're going to look at my messy little Dropbox here. I'm going to have to go over here. Let's see. Yeah, so for this one, I used Photoshop, and I used the Kyle brushes here. And I love Photoshop for that, because you're able to maintain the textures and just keep all of like the gritty parts, and you don't need to lose anything. With Flash, you end up vectorizing it. And this is also used with the Kyle brushes. I do every frame with the Kyle brush. And I think, oh, I have the Photoshop file. Great. So I can take a look at what you guys are saying. Yeah, I remember we were at Adobe Max right before he made the announcement, or right after he made the announcement. So it was really exciting to like see what, like, it was just awesome that he was able to get recognized for that. Okay, so it's really basic. So if you look at my Photoshop file, I just use a lot of frame by frame. I think I do a lot of the sequencing. I use like video groups, and then every frame I kind of just like go with a straight ahead. Yeah. It can get really, so I think for this one I did this is so long ago. I made one of these, like I think I did this one, and then I did the white one. And then I even just repeated it by duplicating these compositions. Yeah, so this is the white one, this is the gray one. And then I repeated it over time, because I think Instagram you have to do them at least 8 seconds, or else it won't accept it as a video. So, yeah. Thanks, Austin. It's so tough to do 100 Days of Motion. And I don't know if you guys have been following me on Instagram. I took like a pretty long break with like some sparse posts here and there in December. And I actually learned so much from sharing at Type Thursdays in San Francisco. They have them in Seattle, LA, even London, and they're founded in New York. And thanks, Michael. And something that I really learned is planning. Planning has been so important. So I think where is it? I have this Google sheet where I include the number of the day, the date, and the word that I'm going to do. And in the beginning, it started in May. Oh my goodness, it's almost a year. I need to finish it before then. But I have the date and the word that I want to do, and maybe some like notes I want to include for the captions, I guess. And then I started back up around here. So it was about halfway where I had a pause. And something that I learned is just like batching them. If you're going to take on something that's 100 days, batching them into like groups has been so much better because I'm able to focus on a certain subject. So haha, you guys get a preview of what I'm going to do. Yeah, so you get to focus on a certain subject and you can create for that. And you're able to kind of like, okay, aim for just finishing this week and then take on the next week and kind of just like think about what I want to do there. And then some planning best practices, I would really encourage you to schedule it as much as possible because life is really hectic. And I think having like deadlines for something is like it can really like make your project. For specifically the one for Lucas, it's like if I posted so he's my husband, and if I posted anything about him after Valentine's Day, I felt like it would be really, it would be too late. And then I would miss the whole, bandwagon of posting about my Valentine. And it's just one of those little things. It really doesn't matter in the long run, but something that really pushes you and drives you. Like, if I don't do it today, then this one won't hit. Then, oh, there he is. Then this won't hit, and then I won't make, oh my goodness, I won't make like any of my other deadlines. And I don't want to like make it go into April because I have a vacation. So I think when you plan ahead, you're able to really like make time for yourself and give yourself padding to get all of the stuff that you want to get done. Especially with animation projects. Like that is, it gets hard, guys. You guys know it takes a long time to do an animation, and you got to give yourself time for that. So, yeah, that's really important. Cool. I wonder if you guys are working on any, like, if you're thinking about taking on, like, any 100 days projects. Because, yes, of course you can ask the noob question. Noob questions are my forte. Totally. I feel like I'm closer to being a noob than I am closer to being an expert in anything. So I always welcome noob questions. Deciding whether I should use all caps, no caps, or cover. It really depends on like the tone of voice that you want to achieve. Because I know for like book covers, a lot of people use all caps because they want them to, to pop on in the stores on the shelf, and no caps when you're like trying to do something soft and really like friendly. Combination of both is great. I think that's a really great way of using a same typeface. say if you only purchase one family, or if you only have one font like normal, then that's one way of differentiating between something you want to be higher up on the hierarchy and something that like you would use as a caption or as a subtitle. So that's like ways you can utilize a single font in different ways to make them different from each other in hierarchy. Oh no. You lost the feed? Can you still hear me? It says I have 10 viewers. Am I back on? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay, we're back. Thanks, Michael. Thanks for keeping an eye on that. Cool. Does that make sense, Kamal? That's how I would use it. Otherwise, if you use all caps, I would use all caps really sparingly. And if it's not in a display face, it can come across as shouting. So, if you can definitely use it in a display face in that way. Oh no. Okay, so I can repeat myself again. It's okay. So using an all caps versus a no caps or a combination of both. I think it's a good way to establish hierarchy between a certain, like in the middle of a certain typeface. So if you only have normal, that's one way of establishing hierarchy between a title and a subtitle, or, something that needs to be higher up would be all caps, something that would be lesser is no caps. Using all caps and no caps are a good way to establish tone as well, because all caps is used primarily for display fonts and also for when you're shouting. So if you want something to really grab people's attention, you would use all caps. For something that's a little bit softer, using no caps would probably be the way to go. So I like to use I aim for no capitalization for my name, just because I feel like I'm a little bit softer in my demeanor whenever I'm like working or around people. So yeah, and then the combination of both is solid for when you only have that one typeface. Trying to stay within one typeface, I think, is the ultimate goal. I think there was a question from earlier about when would be a good idea to use two faces or two different like fonts. I would try to stay away from that because it can get crazy really fast, and a lot of the times when you select the two different fonts, it's when you have to look at things like what is the same. You have to have the same X height or the same ascender height or similar, weights and all that stuff, and that can get really hairy, and you have to get like really deep and dirty with it. So I like to use within the same family at the very least, because the foundries do a really good job of getting that together. Favorite styles of type? Sorry. I just love new questions. And favorite styles of type? I really love script. It's beautiful. I'm also getting into serifs too, which is really interesting. I don't know. It's just it's so fun to do something and just add stuff in, adding using serifs to add more weight is just, it's kind of like a mind-changing thing, and it's something that I was never comfortable with before, because serifs almost render invisibly when you read them. So it's just, yeah. I think, I don't know, I don't have a favorite style. I love doing script because it's the one that I've done the most. Yeah. And type artists, I really love. I'm going to show you them because they're in my bar here. So I love Martina Flor, of course, Jessica Hish, Dana Tanamachi. And my number one is Martina Flor. She is a lettering artist from Berlin, and she does amazing work and she's also studied type design. So I heard her speak at Adobe Max this past year, and she does a great job of using design and illustration in her work, and having that background with type design to really, like, I connect very much to her. So she's in Berlin. And then Jessica Hish, I'm sure many of you have heard of her. She does great work. She's in San Francisco also. So I've been like really keeping an eye out for, you know, that moment where I see her and I won't have anything to say, and just having an excuse to approach her. But she does really amazing work. And she works out of San Francisco and Brooklyn. I think she also did the logo type for Oddfellows. So I didn't know that until I visited her website recently. So this is a little bit of her process. She did like a reverse contrast. These are all of her different explorations. So jessicahish.is is her website if you want to go check her out. And then Dana Tanamachi, she does a lot of like these really great illustrations that I really enjoy. I think they make really beautiful book covers, all these detailing. I think this is in the Instagram, Instagram HQ. It's like in a hallway. So these are people that I really look up to, just because they've been so prolific as illustrators. As letterers especially. So, one day. Let's see. Drawing glove. This glove, I really do enjoy using this. It's funny because people think that I hurt my hand or something whenever I'm in class, but it's really just so I can really glide on top of the Wacom easier. Because if you use like your hands, it's kind of like it gets a little sticky, and then this gets a little oily. So to kind of ease, and so there's no friction on this or my iPad, I use this. And it also helps for when you're working with ink, you're not getting ink on your hand and then smearing it everywhere. I think it helps a ton. And it also just looks really fancy. Oh no. Did I freeze? How are you guys doing? Can you still hear me? Okay. I think that worked. Austin, you started a 100 Days project a few years ago and stopped about 14 days in. It's okay. Don't beat yourself up over it. I think you were the one who told me something about, like, if you have a goal in mind, you can change it, and then you can still aim for it. Like, you can just change one thing to make it a little bit more feasible, and then that's okay. I'm pretty sure, like, yeah, I think that was you. And I was able to let go of just doing scripts for my project. And I think that was really life-changing, because it's like, just let yourself do the thing. But you could just pick it up again. I think I was telling my friend too. If she was working on a project, I think it was 100 days. You don't have to do all 100 days consecutively. Just a thought. People mixing fonts. Yeah, okay, Steve was asking about mixing font families for contrast versus using different weights of the same family. So I would like to use different weights within the same family, because foundries of different weights of the same family, because foundries design these typefaces to work together. and they make them work very beautifully. They have a really wide range of uses for them. So if you look at the names of the fonts, there's display versus text. So text would be used for paragraphs, and then display would be for titles. And I think they do a really good job of making sure that those work together. And whenever you're mixing font families, it can get really hairy because it's like, what if they're different? They have different X heights, and then, you know, all that stuff. I mean, you can definitely get away with having a display face be a script and using any like any sans or a serif typeface. But, you know, if you want the quickest thing, that's the easiest to know that they work together, then, you know, sticking with one font family is the way to go. And using illustration for like a display is like my favorite thing. So I don't think Steve's here, so I don't know if I answered his question or if that's what he was looking for. But he can always, you know, reach out to me if you have any follow-up questions. I think I'm on this Slack. So my favorite piece I've done with type, let me see. It could be anyone. That's a really, let me see. Cool. I think it would have to, I'm gonna have to shop around. I'm going to have to say this mural that I did. Do I have it anywhere? This mural that I did. Yeah, the snowboard helmet. I'm going to go back there too. So there's that one. And the snowboarding helmet I just did because I was really excited for going to Tahoe. And I couldn't sleep, so I grabbed a paint marker that was on my desk, and then I grabbed my helmet, and I just worked on that right before our 4-hour drive to Tahoe for my roommate's birthday. That was a lot of fun. And then yeah, this mural, I think I was so lucky. Our office needed a mural, and I was like, heck yeah, I'm so down. And I worked on this for so long. I think I have some of my project, like my old stuff. 2016 C5 mural, there it is. Oh, so I wanted to get some like things from my coworkers in the mural because I didn't want it to just be mine. So I scanned these in, and some of them are in the mural as like little Easter eggs. And I think whenever you're it took a lot of time. Whenever you're making something for people, you have to consider who your audience is. So I really considered about like, you know, it's going to be in a meeting room, so I don't think we have a better picture. It's going to be in a meeting room, so people will be hanging out there, and they're going to spend a lot of time in there, so I wanted to include those little things to like make them enjoy being in there a little bit more. Yeah, I think it just started with this. So, and it's just like a pencil sketch. This is before I got more comfortable with working with the iPad. But this is like when I colored everything in. I think I cleaned some stuff up I think this is primarily cleaned up in Adobe Sketch, actually. Yeah, I've since deleted the files. And I think, looking back now, you should definitely save all your files and save versions of it, so it's easy for future you to look back and pull stuff up for an interview that you might have in your future. Yeah, that's all I have for that. That mural was so fun. Yeah. And this is kind of my iPad situation. I use AstroPad to draw directly into Photoshop because I don't have money for a Cintiq right now, and an iPad totally works. So, you know, this isn't an ad for AstroPad, I promise. I just think they're dope. Yeah.